There's a fundamental rule in the world of high-stakes litigation, a golden commandment that every single client is taught from the very first day they retain legal counsel. Never communicate with the opposing party without your lawyer present. It is legal defense 101. It is the absolute baseline of self-preservation. Yet, in a move that has left audiences screaming at their screens, Dr. Madison Montgomery just completely ignored this rule, went rogue, and walked directly into a devastating trap. The sheer audacity of her actions is staggering, but the psychological unraveling that led her to this moment is what makes this storyline so incredibly compelling. Let us unpack the absolute disaster class in legal strategy that Madison just pulled and why it has left Bill Hamilton and Naomi Hawthorne completely paralyzed with shock. To truly understand the magnitude of this blunder, we have to look at the immense pressure Madison has been under. Madison is a brilliant doctor. Her entire life, her identity, and her future are built upon her pristine reputation and her medical license. She is engaged to Chelsea Hamilton, and they are supposed to be building a beautiful life together. But suddenly, she finds herself dragged into a vicious, ugly lawsuit orchestrated by the sleazy, vindictive Mike Davis. Mike is not just suing for damages, he is out for blood. He wants to publicly humiliate his former boss, Bill Hamilton, and he is perfectly willing to use Madison as collateral damage to achieve that goal. For weeks, Madison has watched her hard-earned career hang in the balance. She has felt the suffocating weight of the impending trial, the fear of losing her fortune, and the terror of having her professional life destroyed by a man who views her as nothing more than a pawn on his chessboard. The anxiety finally reached a boiling point. Madison convinced herself that she could not afford to gamble her entire future on a courtroom battle. She looked at the aggressive, highly personal warfare being waged between Bill and Mike, and she realized that she was caught in the crossfire of a toxic vendetta. Madison correctly deduced that Mike was dragging this out to inflict maximum damage on Bill. But instead of trusting her legal team to navigate the storm, Madison made a fatal miscalculation. She assumed she could outsmart the shark. She believed that if she just appealed to Mike directly, if she offered him a settlement or a deal that gave him what he wanted, she could quietly extract herself from the narrative. She decided to choose negotiation over confrontation, completely bypassing Bill and Naomi in the process. Imagine the scene. Madison, desperate and terrified, reaching out to Mike Davis behind closed doors. She lays her cards on the table. She offers a deal, likely something highly compromising, thinking that she is taking control of her own destiny. And Mike smiles that arrogant, smug smile of his and agrees. He accepts her terms. He promises to drop the lawsuit against her. In that moment, Madison felt an overwhelming wave of relief wash over her. The heavy burden lifted from her shoulders. She genuinely believed she had just saved her career, her engagement, and her future. She thought she had played the game better than the seasoned lawyers who were supposed to be protecting her. Armed with this false sense of victory, Madison marched into Bill Hamilton's office to deliver the good news. You can almost picture the triumphant look on her face as she announced that she had successfully neutralized the threat. She proudly told Naomi and Bill that Mike had promised to withdraw the lawsuit after she presented him with her private agreement. She expected relief. She expected them to be thrilled that the problem was solved. Instead, the oxygen was instantly sucked out of the room. The reaction from Bill and Naomi was not relief. It was sheer, unadulterated horror. They were dead silent. The blood drained from their faces as the reality of what Madison had just done washed over them. They panicked, and rightfully so, because they instantly recognized what Madison was too blind to see. It was a trap. A massive, inescapable, expertly laid trap. Let us break down exactly why Mike Davis agreeing to this deal is the worst possible outcome. Mike is a predator. He does not make deals out of the goodness of his heart, and he certainly does not let his victims walk away when he has them cornered. By approaching opposing counsel privately and offering a deal, Madison has likely handed Mike the exact ammunition he needs to destroy her completely. Did she admit liability in her desperation to settle? Did she offer financial compensation that Mike can now twist and frame as a blatant bribe? In the legal world, offering a private, Off-the-books settlement to drop a case can easily be manipulated into a criminal extortion or bribery charge. Mike never had any intention of honoring that agreement. He simply let Madison dig her own grave, hand him the shovel, and jump in. What makes this situation so incredibly frustrating for Bill, Naomi, and the audience is the staggering naivety of it all. This is not the first time Madison and Chelsea have been lured into a devastating trap. We all remember the horrific ordeal when Chelsea was kidnapped by Allison. They have experienced firsthand what happens when you trust the wrong people, when you walk blindly into a dangerous situation without backup. How can Madison not learn from that trauma? How could she look at a manipulative snake like Mike Davis and believe, even for a single second, that his promises held any value? The fact that she fell for this manipulation, ignoring all past lessons, is what makes Naomi and Bill so profoundly exasperated. She was weak when she needed to be strong, and that weakness has now jeopardized everything. When the shock wore off in Bill's office, the confrontation exploded. Instead of realizing her monumental error, Madison immediately went on the defensive. She lashed out, claiming that Bill only wanted to drag this out for his own personal revenge. She accused him of wanting to make Mike pay, regardless of the cost to her career. Madison furiously argued that she refused to be a sacrificial lamb in their ego-driven war. She stated that she did not trust Bill and Naomi to actually win the case because their judgment was clouded by hatred. In her mind, trusting Mike to take a deal was safer than trusting Bill to win a trial. Here is the brilliant twist of this narrative. Madison is actually not entirely wrong about Bill. Let us be incredibly real for a second. Bill Hamilton is driven by a massive ego. He does harbor a deep, venomous hatred for Mike Davis, and he absolutely wants to crush his former employee in open court to prove a point. Bill's desire for vengeance has undoubtedly clouded his legal strategy. Madison was entirely justified in feeling like her best interests were taking a backseat to Bill's vendetta. Her anger and her lack of faith in her legal counsel are completely valid emotions. But, and this is a massive but, being right about Bill's flaws does not make her right about Mike's intentions. Just because your lawyer is arrogant does not mean the opposing counsel is your friend. Madison let her frustration with Bill blind her to the lethal danger that Mike represents. Now, the stakes have escalated from a civil dispute to a potential criminal catastrophe. If Mike spins Madison's private offer as an attempt to bribe him into dropping the case, Madison is no longer just facing a loss of wealth or a hit to her reputation. She is facing actual prison time. Bribery is a severe criminal offense. Her medical license would be revoked instantly. Her entire life would be reduced to ashes. The terrible irony is that in her desperate attempt to protect her future, she may have just guaranteed its destruction. Will this foolish, panic-driven mistake be the thing that ultimately lands Dr. Madison Montgomery behind bars? It is a terrifyingly real possibility. This catastrophic blunder also places Naomi and Bill in an agonizing dilemma. Naomi is not just a lawyer in this case, she is family. Madison is engaged to Chelsea, Naomi's sister. The emotional entanglement is incredibly messy. Can Naomi and Bill afford to abandon Chelsea's fiancé after she explicitly went behind their backs and sabotaged their entire defense strategy? Legally, a lawyer has every right to drop a client who acts against their counsel and compromises the case. But familial loyalty makes that nearly impossible. If they abandon Madison now, they are effectively throwing Chelsea's future wife to the wolves, which would shatter their family dynamic forever. What exactly are Bill and Naomi going to do to save Madison from this massive violation of legal protocol? They are now playing from a severe disadvantage. Mike holds all the leverage. He has documentation or testimony of Madison's desperate attempt to cut a deal. Bill and Naomi will have to launch an aggressive damage control campaign. They will have to find a way to invalidate the agreement, perhaps by proving that Mike coerced Madison, or by exposing Mike's own unethical behavior in engaging with a represented party without her counsel present. They have to turn the trap around and make it snap on Mike's fingers. But doing so will require Bill to put his ego aside and focus entirely on protecting his client rather than punishing his enemy. This storyline is a masterclass in psychological tension. It perfectly captures how fear and desperation can drive highly intelligent people to make breathtakingly stupid decisions. Madison's actions were born out of a genuine desire to protect her life with Chelsea, but the execution was a spectacular failure. As we watch the fallout of this disastrous announcement, we are left with a lingering, heavy question. Can Bill and Naomi pull off a legal miracle to save a client who actively worked against them, or has Madison Montgomery finally sealed her own tragic fate? The courtroom doors are closing, and the trap has officially been sprung.